Giant stalker, dragon stalker, crypt stalker, demon stalker, rift stalker, grown stalker, crypt stalker, scourge stalker, wind runner. I'm a pony, lead skill hunter. A death dealer, a life stealer. That's just the cost of being a...
Welcome to episode 128 of the Hunting Party Podcast. This is Euripides from WoW Insider, Out DPS, and Call to Auction.
And I'm Dark Brew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
And this is Frosttime from Warcraft Hunters Union, WoW Insider, and Frosttime WHU on Twitter.
And I'm Ollie Sonder from the Hunting Party Podcast and Torlore.
Traitor.
Okay. If you want to participate in the chat room today but aren't registered, just go to the little chat window, and I guess today you're going to type Dire Beast versus Murder of Crows Death Cage match. Who would win? And then you'll be prompted to register. And asked to provide an answer to that question, which we may try and answer today.
It's gotten much tougher. But speaking of the chat room, we're joined today in the live chat room by Badlink.
How do you spell that?
Jager, Brucey SV, Chimney, Fixon, Foxtrap 05, Get the Go Bow, Great House 2, Havtor Hunter Extraordinaire, Induas, Jeffrey Nommer, Kelvin and Hobbs, Morgatho, Osman, Relter, Revel 1, Salamance Draenor, Slugslinger, Warvinny, Wintry, and various anonymous guests who don't love us enough to type in a name and take 2 seconds. As always, your lovely moderator, Ollie Sonder, is here and vacuuming at the same time. If you have any questions for us, any topics you would like us to discuss, you can send them to Ollie Sonder in a private message. And in that private message, I also want you to answer this question. I want you to say, what kind of magical fairy elements should Euripides add to his perfect princess tea party that he's having?
And the background for that was in the pre-show. I'm actually podcasting from my child's room, and I'm sitting at a very, very small table, which is surprisingly built to be shared by an adult. So, you know, the chairs are capable of supporting my weight. But it's got princesses on it, pictures, names. This is probably the least manly podcast I have ever done.
Right, and that table is really, the table and chairs are specifically designed for you to have tea.
With children, yes, exactly.
Tiny little princess party tea. So I want to know, now you guys know, he's got the pink table and the wee little chairs, and I assume somewhere there's
small.
Tiny little teacups. So what
No, those are in the dishwasher. Of
course. What other magical fairyland elements does Euripides need to just make his princess party perfect?
Yeah,
well, I'll tell you one.
What you need to do, you need to make it like a Cinco de Mayo tea party. You just grab yourself a margarita.
What is that, anyways? I'm in Canada. We don't have Cinco de Mayo up here.
Cinco de Mayo is an American holiday that we pretend comes from Mexico, where we drink and eat Mexican food.
Okay. Well, it definitely sounds like, Cinco is, I think, Spanish for 5. So.
Indeed, it is.
Mayo is May.
It's May 5th. How about that? 5-5.
Yeah. It took me way too long to get yesterday's jokes. May the 4th be with you. That was just. But anyways, we should probably actually talk about World of Warcraft for a little bit. We have some news.
I have news.
Oh wait, Ollie Sonder has news.
Yes, I received my Spectral Wind Rider this week. I have resurrected someone into World of Warcraft. Thank you very much.
Hey, congratulations.
What's the Spectral Wind Rider?
I think it
is incredibly cool looking.
You know what? Here's the sad thing. I've been spending all of my WoW time in beta. It's been so long since I've actually logged on to WoW. I should log on and see if I have a Spectral Wind Rider. What do you get that for? No? What? Oh.
You get it for sending a Scroll of Resurrection to a friend. And my friend is Renee. Thank you very much, Renee, who is also in the chat room.
Oh, hi, Renee.
Hi, Renee. Dude, you totally boned me. I wanted one of those, whatever that was.
You do not. You don't even know what it is. You haven't seen it. But I guess that's enough for you to want it. So
all I know is Ollie Sonder has one, so I want one too.
It's the flying mount, the flying lion with the Batwing kind of thing.
Okay.
A lion?
And if you got it on your lion's character, then you get a Spectral Griffin.
Oh, that sounds way better.
It does sound entertaining.
That sounds way better. I want one of those, not what Ollie has.
So if you know anyone in the chat room listening to this podcast who's been gone for a while and would like to come back, let us know so we can send you many scrolls of resurrection. Only one a month.
Does that mean like the rocket has gone away now? I know they were getting ready to deprecate that.
They're planning to, but not yet. This is a different promotion.
Oh, okay.
I have an important update before we get onto the beta news. On the list of things that will get your question asked on today's live episode, you can strike off that list a small orange ukulele, because I have one right in front of me that I did not notice a minute ago when we were talking. I'm going to randomly interject things that are on my table right now as we go through the show.
Things that help make your pretty princess party perfect.
It's pretty close already. So if you were going to say you should probably add a small orange ukulele, the answer would be no, I wouldn't, because then I'd have two. Although I would have two. Anyways,
well, you know what would make your party perfect would be talking about all the wonderful hunter changes in World of Warcraft beta.
That sounds like that would make it quite good. Ranged weapon stats have been updated to do more DPS, and okay, so you wrote they have two-handed stat weights, so that means we're finally no longer getting gypped on the transition, eh?
That is right, even though I'm offended by your phraseology.
Phraseology? Is that even a word?
Yes, it is.
Well then.
If I wrote a dictionary, I would be able to prove it to you. Yeah, no, so and this is something that even before beta ever hit, we were told this was going to be happening. With our two-handed weapons are going away, and in exchange, we're going to get... Well, there's two things going on. Our two-handed weapons are going away. Well, we can still use them, but we can use them or our ranged weapon. And so a lot of people were like, dude, we get a crap ton of stats from those. What's happened to those stats? Because all the other people are still getting those stats. And Blizzard's like, oh, no, we'll just put those stats on your ranged weapons. So beta started, people are like, where's the stats? They're not on our ranged weapons. OMG. And then they started making new ranged weapons for the beta that didn't have the stats. So people started getting concerned.
Oh, no.
So we got those, which is great. But in addition to that, we also got a big boost in the DPS with the ranged weapons. And Tabana over at WoW Hunters Hall has a great little post on this, where she's showing Vishenka, Jaws of the Earth, and the way it is now, and the way it is in Mists of Pandaria Beta. And let me just give you this little comparison here. Mm-hmm. So like right now, it has 182 agility and 274 stamina. The exact same identical weapon, this is the heroic version, in the beta, instead of 182 agility, has 581 agility.
Oh, wow.
Instead of 274, it has 871. And that's because it's getting the stat weight of a two-handed weapon. But in addition to that, the weapon DPS, right, which is 1,060, now in the beta is 2,120. And if you'll
that's an interesting fact.
Yeah, and if you'll recall... Yeah. There was this point when they were lowering the coefficients of base damage for almost all of our shots. And they said, no, this isn't a nerf. This is to balance things better at low levels, but we're going to compensate for it by making higher level weapons do more DPS. So your overall damage will be the same, even though the percentage of base damage being contributed to your special shots will be lower. That also means the damage of our auto shots are going to be much higher.
Interesting.
Okay, I just logged into WoW. I do have a new brew of the month, but I do not have some kind of magical thing like Alexander got. I just want that to be made clear.
You'd have to send someone a scroll of resurrection. So, okay, it sounds like this is not a flat buff. It's not a flat nerf or anything. This is going to change a little bit, but the thing is, at this point we're in such a state of flux anyways. We don't really know what we're going to look like at level 90 in terms of balance.
That's a big thing, right? And knowing like what the number is doesn't really mean a lot until we are able to have something to compare it against, right?
That said, when we do, when they launch 5.0 and the level cap is still 85, do you think that we're going to see a huge boost?
No. They specifically said it was supposed to be done in a way that didn't really affect DPS, however, when patch 5.0 comes out and we're still level 85, and all of the sudden our shots can be dodged, I guess we'll be desperately
Well, no, you just go and reforge.
Reforge into expertise, I
Well, sure,
guess.
but okay, so you reforge, like right now, you're at the hit cap, and now you're reforging for crit or mastery, but now you're going to be like getting rid of all of these stats to put it into expertise to get just the same hit chances we have now. That's a DPS drop.
That is a DPS drop. That's very good point.
I mean, Ghostcrawler comment and somewhere in the notes buried here is a comment from Ghostcrawler on the ranged weapon stats. So because someone had asked in the forums and he commented about it before it was actually implemented in the beta. But I mean, I think basically he said, we want your damage when you log in for the first time to be about the same as it is now, so your overall damage will be compensated in a sense. I mean, basically he said, ranged weapons will have the stats budgets of two-handed weapons, which is what we're seeing. And he said you can treat them as two-handed weapons in most respects.
Right, and so the idea is, and then some people were complaining like, oh, well, we used to get our ranged weapon stats and our two-handed weapon stats, but now we just get the two-handed. That's a nerf. And Ghostcrawler was like, no, that's consistent across everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone just has the one weapon slot. So ranged weapons, I mean, we'll have to see. I think basically what he's saying is your DPS will be about the same with regards to your ranged weapon damage. I think expertise is going to, I think it's gonna sneak up behind us,
It's what, 8%?
7.5%. I think it's gonna sneak up behind us, bend us over a table, and just do us behind. There'll be a percentage of hunters who would appreciate that, but there'll be a lot of hunters who won't.
Well, in any case, so 7.5% itemization drop in terms of what we'd have to. Oh no, that's not true. It's I'd have to figure out what percentage of itemization we're losing, but it amounts to an equivalent 7.5% reduction of overall DPS. That we can compensate for by taking things out of crit, for example, or mastery or something.
Yeah. It's going to be sad. It's going to be sad. We're going to cry.
Only until 90, at which point it'll be balanced. So
correct. Everything will get sorted out at 90. So another, I guess actually there's a whole bunch of stuff I'm here in the patch notes. Have we really not talked about any of this stuff?
It has been
a few weeks
since our last podcast. We've had
wow. I'm like, dude, this is old news. What the?
Well, it is technically old news, but we've not discussed it here on the podcast, so it's
fair enough.
New for as far as this show is concerned.
Sure, we'll zip through this in a moment. One other thing I do want to point out, an interesting thing that a commenter on the WHU pointed out, and I had kind of noticed but ignored. And I kind of went back and paid more attention to it. And this is kind of obnoxious. Like right now on live, if you walk up to a target or walk up in range from a target and you fire a steady shot or a cobra shot at them, right? You press your button, you got your 1.5, 1.25, whatever. You got your steady shot cast. And as soon as your steady shot launches, your auto shot also launches, right?
Okay.
So if you go to the beta, you walk up to a target, you hit steady shot, your auto shot instantly fires while your steady shot starts casting. And I have to say, it's a little obnoxious for leveling. Because I'm used to for leveling, like, oh, I'm going to send my pet in, I hit, my Cobra shot. By the time my Cobra shot fires, my pet will be there, and it'll be Cobra auto back-to-back, plowing into him. But now it's like, send my pet in, hit Cobra shot, bing, oh, they're coming after me. That's okay, I can shoot him in the face.
I'm not sure where you're going with this.
I'm just saying it's an interesting little change.
So you're saying the auto shot is being fired earlier than it would.
Yes, your auto
normally.
shot fires instantly. It's like when you hit a shot, but when you're out of combat, you hit a shot, your auto shot instantly fires off rather than starting your auto shot swing timer.
Right, so a lot of people macro start attack into steady shot so that they don't lose all that auto shot timer time, while the steady shot is casting. You can't obviously do that for aim shot as currently as MM, but for every other shot, steady shot. But I mean, you would never want to open with a steady shot anyways.
You do when you're leveling, depending on the situation.
Okay, but you're going to start off at 100 focus. Why would? Oh, if you wanted to fire your two to get your A.
Right, because it's like there's some situations, not as BM, which is what I was playing around at a lot. I'm really, by the way, enjoying BM in beta. But if you're like MM or something, like I would frequently, be like, okay, steady shot, and so that would hit steady shot, auto shot, chimera shot, arcane shot, and hopefully it's dead before it can ever reach me. I don't even need my
I
deck
see
to
what
get
you
there.
mean.
And so now it's like, oh, now I actually have to worry about tanking it. Although that is compensated somewhat in the Loveland experience by the fact that they do reach you, and you're like, I don't care. I'm just going to stay here and blow you in the face. Maybe I could have worded that differently. I'm just going to stay here and shoot you in the face. And because I have to say,
nice to not have.
another awesome thing about doing love lane stuff in the beta, or killing things. I'm not actually questing. I'm just walking around killing things and sitting there for 10 minutes pouring through combat logs. But I did a couple times go just kill a whole bunch of stuff to see how it worked out. And let me tell you, Spirit Bond, the new Spirit Bond, is ridiculously awesome. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot. Oh, some stuff's pounding, and it's stuff's attacking me. Oh, I multi-shotted. 3 things are attacking me. I can eventually kill them, and it's really convenient. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could like run and kite and do all that stuff, but it's really convenient to just sit there and keep pulling stuff in and not, burn any time on movement and then have to come back in to loot. It's really convenient to just sit there, and that Spirit Bond, if you take that incidental, by the time that next dude's pulled, you're healed to full. Holy God. And you combine that with like every now and then, it's like, oh, I have 4 things attacking me. Okay, my pet will beat them up. I'm at half health. Oh, I'll just disengage to heal myself for 15%. And then by the time they're dead, Spirit Bond will take care of the rest. The self-healing, at least from a leveling perspective, from a sloppy leveling and grinding bajillions of mobs at once, is awesome.
I think the thing I'm looking forward to most, and I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with it, is the no minimum range, especially for PvP.
You adjust to it right away. I mean,
are you
seriously.
sure?
No, it takes a little.
I
It took
I don't know.
a while before I quit. Like, oh yeah, concussive shot and disengage. Oh wait, I could just end here, right? That's weird.
Yeah. Well, in PvP, you probably don't want to anyways, just because if you're standing next to someone, they can probably do worse things to you than if you're at a range from them. But at this point, it's not going to slow down your DPS. The thing that gets me is when you're right next to someone, your mouse over macros kind of they become harder to use. But
yeah, I don't know. I just warmed up to it. I was just so looking forward to it. I mean, and especially for just the PvE leveling, because something gets into to the old minimum range, and you realize, oh my gosh, I could just sit here and shoot. I don't have to move. I don't have to do anything. I mean, as long as you're not going to die, it makes sense to stay there and plow away. But it's very nice. You will get used to it, and it's hard to go back and not have it.
Well, I think it'd be a little bit like now when you're raiding, some of the bosses don't have a minimum range. Like you can, stand right where the tank stands and you can still hit them. And in addition to that, you can melee them. So, at least for Raptor Strike. So I think it'll be a little, I might compare it a little bit to that, but.
Yeah, I definitely think that raiding is going to be so much nicer, where we can actually stand wherever the optimal place to be is for the raid, rather than everybody stand here. Oh, but I'm a hunter. I have to be 5 feet away. They're like, goddamn fucking hunters.
That's pretty rare, though. I find more often than not, where you want to stand as a hunter is where you should be standing, and where you probably would have been standing even if you didn't have a minimum range. There's like maybe 4 or 5 times per tier that's not the case, and then you just have to deal with it. Like, for example, on
right,
the
except
boss.
now we won't have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
Yeah, it's just mostly for healing. Stacking up to be healed is really
exactly
the situation we faced in Cataclysm. And the group manages to just find their stack point be, just in the worst place, just enough that you have to stand outside the green circle.
Right.
In order to shoot.
So do we want to do a quick rundown of all of these changes from a couple weeks ago?
Sure.
Here, I'm going to try to speed read through them.
All right.
Okay, so Stampede now only affects your current target, so the pets won't go running all over the place. Trap Mastery, they reduced the total number of snakes that extra snakes Trap Master gives you. It used to give you an extra 6, now it gives you an extra 4, but keep in mind the snakes are ridiculously more tougher.
Is that, Trap Mastery, is that still a talent? I forget.
No, I mean, it's
It's
an ability survival gets.
Right.
Okay.
Survival just gets it.
right.
Link's Rush, we'll actually come back and talk about this more later, but the cooldown has been reduced from 2 minutes to 1.5 minutes, and in addition, this isn't on the notes, but in addition, instead of regenerating 2 focus every time the beast attacks,
That's right.
it's going to regenerate 5 focus, and I believe the duration has been increased from 12 seconds to 15 seconds. Oh, that's Dire Beast. Whoops. So Dire Beast did all that stuff.
They're very similar, aren't they?
Black Arrow reverted back to the way it is on live.
We did talk about that.
Yep, Serpent Spread is back. Explosive Trap Ticks can proc Lock and Load again. Concussive Shot is back, and the Glyph of Arcane Shot is gone. And let me say, I'm kind of missing that Glyph of Arcane Shot. I'm happy Concussive Shot is back, but it was really nice when I was just putzing around, and I would just shoot things with my rotation, and they would all be dazed.
Yeah, I think it was too trivial, and they're worried about it in PvP. Rogues have that a little bit right now, where they don't have to sacrifice much in order to keep you constantly slowed, so you have to do something to them and get away from them. But anyways.
The focus cost on many shots has been reduced to mirror what the shots are like now on live with the efficiency talent that every single hunter has, which I think was a wise move. And so that's stuff like your Chimera Shot and your Explosive Shot and stuff. And your Arcane Shot is 22 focus instead of 25. The threat generation of Growl has been boosted upward by about 11%.
No, that's no longer a taunt, right?
It is, you know what? I never tested to verify whether it really was. And that is absolutely something I should look into. I'll put it on the list. The problem is I need somebody else to test that. Blah, blah, blah. Ranged weapon damage stats have been added to the game. We talked about that.
Yep.
Base damage on many shots was increased by like 10% or 12.5%. That's... Keep in mind, they were all reduced like 30% or something. And so they're just clearly tweaking that to get it to the right level. Power Shot has been buffed immensely to do way, way more damage than the sad, pointless damage it used to do. Go for the throat.
Yeah, what's the point of naming something Power Shot and then making it,
not give it any power?
Yeah.
So foolish people take it by mistake, obviously. Glyph of Distracting Shot is awesome.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Yeah, Glyph of Distracting Shot. Your Distraction Shot now distracts the enemy to your pet instead of to you. And
so that's the same thing as the Rogue's Distract, right? Where it turns your character is now facing another way?
No, it's Distracted Shot. It forces the opponent to attack you for 6 seconds or whatever it is.
Oh, so it's like your pet taunting.
Yes, except it's not. Yes, it's like your pet taunting. It's not a real taunt, but for 6 seconds, the thing will attack your pet instead of you.
It's like combination distracting shot misdirecting to your pet, so to speak.
Exactly.
Well, there's a difference though. A taunt is a completely different mechanic than threat. Taunt puts you at the top of the threat list, but if there's no one else there, it doesn't generate any threat. Adding threat doesn't always put you to the top of the threat list. And more importantly, Rogue's distraction ability actually turns your character towards whatever they just made you distract, and including NPCs. So if you ever go up against a group of NPCs and you see all of a sudden they're facing some spot in the middle of them, that's because a rogue distracted them there so that he could walk up behind them, which makes them less likely to see stealth.
So this ability, it's still Distracting Shot, not remotely like the Rogue ability. Like right now, Distracting Shot, you fire it, it forces the target to attack you for 6 seconds. It does not affect threat in any way. With the Glyph, instead of the target attacking you, the target will attack your pet for 6 seconds. Does not affect threat in any way. It doesn't change the position on the threat tables. But this does have some interesting ramifications for Distracting Shot ping-ponging, which is something that we can do now, but it'll be a lot easier when you can put your pet on, move 2. So have your pet sit over in a corner, distract it to the pet, it wears off, the mob turns to head back to whoever it's going to, then another hunter distracts it to his pet on the other side of the room. Oh, now the boss goes over there.
Now, I should know this because I occasionally play a tank, but taunting, they took off the real diminishing returns and they replace it with some other form of strange diminishing returns where you can't taunt one after another, right?
I am not familiar with the way real taunt diminishes. Because real taunt is like our pet's taunt. It forces the target to attack you, but it for a short amount of time, but it also puts you at 110 or 111% of the threat of the highest person. So it puts you on the top of the threat table, and forces something to attack you for just a little bit. And the idea is then you can get enough threat to be up above the DPSers, which obviously isn't a big issue with the way threat works nowadays, but taunt mechanics were a huge deal back in the day.
Yeah.
So
I should look that up.
the Glyph of Black Ice. That's just in the game now. Nothing changed there.
Well, we didn't talk about Aspect of the Beast.
Yeah, Aspect of the Beast, that's an interesting one. Is that really for PvP, I guess? And,
Yeah,
and how useful is it? It's a minor glyph, so you'd probably
you take it because there's probably there's not a whole lot out there, but it means that other hunters won't see you as easily. Like when you're a hunter, you're kind of like the sonar. You've got Eyes of the Beast and you've got tracking, so you know what's happening near you. And if you Eyes of the Beast in some distant place, you know what's happening over there too. And you can use it to provide all kinds of useful information in a BG type environment. But this will make you one less point of data that the opposing hunter has, because you become untrackable.
It's also druids can track as well.
Right, I thought there's some others that...
Yeah, it's druids and hunters are the trackers.
Things could track.
There's tracking food, I think, as well.
And there's like food or potions or something like that could be used.
So definitely appropriate for minor glyph. Little boost there. I guess we never talked about the Hunter Tier 14 set bonus either, huh?
Did we talk about Black Ice?
We may have mentioned it because the glyph has been around for a while. It's been around
since for ages.
But they hadn't been implemented in the game.
Yeah, so there's no change there. The Hunter Tier 14 set bonuses were data mined by MMO Champion. The 2-piece bonus, and these are just horrible set bonuses.
Yeah.
Mechanically, because they're complicated. The 2-piece bonus is your kill command deals a certain percentage additional damage. Your Chimera shot deals 15% additional damage. Your explosive shot deals 5% additional damage. And if you remember, that happened to us at the very beginning of Cataclysm. Our Tier 11 set 4-piece bonus was originally different for each spec, and then they changed it and went, yeah, that's kind of sloppy design. The 4-piece bonus right now says it increases the duration of your Bestial Wrath ability by 6 seconds, increases the chance for Black Arrow to trigger lock and load by 20%, and increases the ranged attack speed granted by Steady Focus, which is the improved Steady Shot, by an additional 10%.
It sounds like they have an effect in there for each spec.
Yes.
I'm surprised that they couldn't come up with one effect that has an impact on all specs. But on the other hand, I kind of like
fix it.
No, actually, I think I like this better because now if the set bonus, it's impossible to come up with a standard unified effect that will make the set bonus equally valuable for all specs. Well, now if it's
here's the set bonus that's
harder.
Useful. It increased the damage you and your pet deal by 5%.
That's boring as hell. They don't do set bonuses that do increase the damage.
But I've disproved your statement that it's impossible to come up with one.
It's difficult and uninteresting to come up with one that happens to just give everybody approximately the same DPS. What they could do is what they've done here. If they actually did it this way, then they could just, if people were switching from whatever one spec was last tier to some new spec, and they were all doing it because somebody wrote this is the best DPS, and it was because of the set bonus. Like maybe, until you get your set bonus, you have to be marks, and after you get your set bonus, you have to be survival. Well, in that case, they could just tweak the numbers so that, it's no longer as clear a choice, and you can still be whichever you like.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what they do, like you said, because the initial Tier 11 set bonus was spec specific, and they ended up trashing
They
that.
said that they did trash that, and I don't remember why. I suspect that it kind of makes sense that they don't like. There might have been a design philosophy at one point where the set bonus should be something that doesn't matter which spec you are, you get benefit from it no matter what. But if they're in the business of trying to promote spec equality, then this is probably the fairest way for them to do it.
I agree with that, because it is true that way, if it turns out like, oh, this bonus benefits, marksman more than anyone else, it's like, oh, well, we can just turn the marksman knob down without having to actually nerf marksman hunters. We just change this one aspect of the set bonuses. I don't know. But realistically, that's true for most DPS classes, which of course is all classes. But for anybody that has multiple DPS specs, I can't imagine they're going to do this on every set bonus, for every set piece, for every class that has multiple DPS specs.
I don't know. It might be less QQ than trying to create one that would create a sense of balance.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys want to talk about or did you want to go to break, or do you want to talk about the new pet changes?
Well, let's zip through the new pet abilities and exactly what they are and how they work.
Okay.
So ferocity pets, because keep in mind, pets don't have talents anymore. They just get spec abilities. It is live in the beta right now. You can set the spec of your pet. I haven't seen a way to change it. Have you, Dark Brew?
Yes, go to a pet trainer, and they will unlearn your, I don't know, for lack of a better word, talents, but they'll undo the specialization.
They'll undo the pet spec?
Yeah, and the base cost in beta right now is like 20 gold to do that. And I don't know if it'll escalate beyond that. But that's all you do. Just go to them and say, hey, unlearn your stuff. Your spells go away, and then you can go open up the interface and choose which family or which whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what it's called. You want it to be.
I call it spec, because family implies...
family implies, exactly, a certain
wolf,
type.
Cat,
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you choose ferocity, your pet will have Rabid, which increases the pet's attack power by 50% for 20 seconds. So it's a DPS cooldown for your pet. They will have Heart of the Phoenix, which brings them back to life with full health when it works. At least in the beta, when I was messing with it, it wasn't, because if the pet died, Heart of the Phoenix ability went away. I was like, no! Because it was on the little pet bar that day. But I could open the spell book and get it, but that was unfortunate. They get Dash, so they get their little movement speed boost. And they get Spiked Collar. And Spiked Collar combines a whole bunch of other ferocity stuff, where it now increases the damage done by your pet's basic attacks by 10%. It increases your pet's crit chance by 10% and your pet's haste by 10%. So this is combining, Serpent Swiftness and Spider Bite, only a little better, and a different version of Spiked Collar. So it's combining a whole bunch of pet damage boosts. But so this really makes, if you tell your pet to be ferocity, your pet will clearly be the best DPS spec. If you choose tenacity, you get Last Stand, which is the health boost cooldown. Your pet will get Charge. It'll have Thunder Stomp, so good for the AoE. It has Blood of the Rhino. Blood of the Rhino has also been changed and buffed crazily, so it's combined a whole bunch of different effects. It's still
this is the one. Yeah, this is the one that I think you had an effect on this when you mentioned specifically to Ghostcrawler that people like tanking older content with their pets, and if we lose specs, we might lose the ability to get them uncrittable. Well, this is, I think, their answer to it.
Right, and so it still increases all healing effects on your pet by 40%, which is what Blood of the Rhino does now, but it also boosts your pet's armor by 20%, kind of like natural armor, reduces your pet's chance to be critically hit by melee attacks by 6%, giving us the Grace of the Mantis ability. And you also have greater stamina, so it increases your pet's total health by 12%. So, clearly, the tanking spec. And then Cunning gets Roar of Sacrifice to protect a friendly target from crits. It gets Bullheaded, which removes all movement impairing effects and all effects which cause loss of control.
That's interesting, because nobody takes that right now, ever.
And it reduces the damage done to your pet by 20%. They do get Dash. They get Cornered, so if they're less than 35% health, it does more damage and has less chance to be crit. And Boar's Speed, which just increases the pet's flat movement speed, even if it's not under the effects of Dash. So here's what I like about this, because the way the pet talents work right now is like there is some stamina and armor talents that every pet spec can get. And there's some DPS talents that every pet spec can get. But now they're saying, nope, we're just going to make pets what we think is a good baseline, and Ferocity does extra damage. Tenacity gets extra defense. Cunning gets stupid PvP crap.
Well, that seems to be the way it's shaping up. I would say Cunning definitely looks like it's got some mitigation and so forth that you would want to have for PvP.
Yeah, I was actually
Tenacity for tanking, and like you said, Ferocity is probably going to be the choice of raiders in most PvE.
Just about every raid pet is going to be Ferocity. And keep it in mind, you can make any pet you want a Ferocity pet, including and specifically Spore Bats.
Well, then you have to deal with the special. One question, though, Cower, I think I remember hearing that they changed that. Cower is no longer reduction to damage taken, right? Like the baseline ability for all pets?
In the game, I don't know.
I was going to say, I know Cower is still... You know what? I'm loading up the beta right now. I'll take a look.
Okay, because on live it certainly does that, but because they have they've given that to bullheaded. Bullheaded reduces damage done to your pet by 20% instead of 50, but still means if you have cower and bullheaded together, you get 70% off your damage from your cunning pet, which might make it almost as good, if not better, than a tenacity pet for certain types of tanking. Also, nobody takes bullheaded on live because movement and pairing problems on your pet are just not generally a problem. In PvP, you're always using something with a ranged ability typically, and you just wait for them to.
Yeah, but yeah, I think now the 20%. By the way, in beta, cower does work the same. 40% damage reduction.
Oh, 40, not 50? Okay. So that's 60 total. But if you use cower and bullheaded.
And then as someone in the chat room saying, movement speed reduction too, correct, for your pet?
Correct. There is no improved cower. Not that anybody ever used it anyway.
No, not so much. And one other thing you might want to check in beta, I'll check it on live. Cornered has been this entire patch, and I think maybe even the last expansion, bugged in that your pet had a 60%, not just chance to be critically hit, 60% reduced damage when they're below 35% health.
That blows.
Well, no, 60% reduced damage taken, not done.
Oh, I thought you were saying
No. They turn into sort of like 1.5 pets in terms of how much output they give, but when they're sort of low on health, especially if you macro mend, pet, and cower, as soon as you saw your pet get below 35%, I had a little power aura ding, and I've had a warrior in full, at the time, vicious gear just go to town on the little bastard who inherited all the resilience. He went down to 35%. I hit cower and mend pet, and the warrior couldn't damage through my hot. He couldn't damage through my crappy little min pet, which is hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's that I haven't tested it on live since 4.1 or 4.2.
Oops. So did we talk about the awesome dash charge-like ability of Kill Command in beta?
No. Oh, yes.
Yes,
we did.
We mentioned it a while back, but it's probably still worth mentioning because, like you said, it is an awesome dash charge-like ability. So now what? You cast Kill Command and your pet just makes a mad dash for the mob.
What it is,
kind of like a warrior's charge, right? It's got the same sort of limitations and effects as a warrior's charge. It just goes over
well, there's
any
no stun on it. Yeah,
no, but you know how the warriors kind of zigzag from where they are to you, no matter what's in the way, and they do it really fast. That's the impression I got when I was watching it?
Yeah, it's your pet has to be within 25 yards of the target to Kill Command, which is way better than having to be in melee. But yeah, if you hit Kill Command and your pet's within 25 yards, it charges over to the target. There's no stun at the end, so it's not a charge effect like that. But it's like, if your pet's tased, it doesn't matter. Pew! It's right there at the target. Mm-hmm. This is going to be awesome for target switching fights, and it's just awesome in general.
And PvP.
For PvP. It's awesome for everything. And even just in leveling, it's sweet to get your pet there faster.
Let me tell you why I'm the guy who was talking about marksmanship and survival, no matter what I'm doing. I don't have anything against BM. I played a lot of BM back in 3.0, and BM is one of those things where I've tried it a few times and I've never stayed with it. The reason is Kill Command. I cannot, I just absolutely hate having to. Sit there spamming that ability sometimes if the boss is moving or if my target in PvP is moving. I understand that if I could get good at that, there's a very viable way to PvP with BM, and I understand that, there are certain encounters where BM is viable, but it's just not something I enjoy doing. So this is going to change a lot of things for me, I think.
Yeah, and I have to say, so far, I haven't messed around with survival yet. I've been messing around with, I have my 2 specs in beta is, BM and Marksman, and so far BM is just a lot more fun to play in a leveling environment.
I've always liked leveling as BM.
Yeah,
even prior to this.
In Cataclysm, I think I leveled as Marksman just so I could kill stuff I could kill stuff faster. But with BM, and Murder of Crows, if you're ever in a situation, which will probably only happen for the first couple days, but if you're in a situation where there's so many people around that stuff is spawning nonstop, and I just go as BM because there's some areas in the beta that are just swarmed with people, so the mobs are just repopping and repopping. Just go in as actually it doesn't matter what spec you are, but go in with Murder of Crows. And all I do is just, I send my pet in and whatever, but I just Cobra Shot until something's at 20%, then I hit Murder of Crows. Because it's less than 20%, it resets the cooldown. The next one, Murder of Crows, and you get more and more and more crows. And if anything gets like close to you, like within 10 feet of you, the crows will go attack that. This is the solution to people tagging your stuff. Why will people hate hunters? And the crows are all around pinging things and tagging things, and I'm shooting
what if
stuff.
there's more than one hunter in the area? You got a whole bunch of hunters with clouds of crows being, following them around, aggroing everything in sight. Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, the way the crows generally work is, like, if you cast it on a target, the target dies, because if it's under 20%, it's going to die pretty quickly. The crows are still appearing, and they'll appear and just hang out around you. And if you attack something, sometimes some of them help. Most of the time, they just hang out around you, unless you get really close to it. If you get really close to it, then the crows will be like, oh my god, bad guy, okay, we'll go take care of it. So I actually find myself, it's really weird, being the opposite of a hunter. And I'm like running around into melee, because I want the crows to start attacking everything. And I'm just wandering around, crows are pulling stuff, my pet's pulling. I wish I had aggressive at this point. It'd just have everything attack everything. I'm just like, hanging out. Never mind. Also, as BM, this is awesome. So I'm just hanging out and like pinging stuff and pulling stuff, and then I'll disengage and multi-shots. My pet gets Beast Cleave, and it's AoEing and Thunder Stomping. It's nice. It's nice.
Did you guys want to talk about the new pet families, or at least skins that they data mined? There's been, since Mr. Pandaria launched, there's been a bunch of new pet skins and even new pet models, and all of them were untamable, and it was very frustrating, but they just started making some of those tameable. I think the two new models that I'm familiar with is the Porcupine.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Which I think was classified as a boar, so people are a little.
I was going to ask.
Still the case.
It's very possible that just hasn't been given its ability yet. It clearly needs to do damage when something hits it. It needs like a little Born's like effect. But it's a Porcupine.
Or a ranged attack. It needs to be fine.
It's like
they're so small.
Porcupines?
Yeah, well, in real life.
In real life, porcupines are flipping big.
They're pretty bushy
really?
things. Yeah,
they're like the size of a Yorkshire Terrier or something.
No, particularly once its quills are out, they can be.
Yeah, that's true.
They're basically this. I would say a porcupine is about the size of a raccoon, and raccoons have a very wide size range.
Oh, I see.
There's some big flipping raccoons, and I think porcupines.
You know what? I was thinking of a hedgehog. That would be funny. What are fireflies going to be? Do you know what class they're going to be, or what category?
Probably like wasps, maybe. I haven't. Like I said, they weren't tameable.
Just going to be wasps.
Yeah, I think they're just wasps.
And cranes, I imagine.
Which is another new model.
Yeah, people like the cranes.
New skins. A bunch of stuff has new skins, but there's a couple new models, and the cranes are kind of cool looking. I also
do the birds of prey still have? Do the birds of prey still have Snatch, the disarm? I forget we talked about this.
I think you need to bleep that out.
Okay. What? Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they've changed. I don't know. I've been trying to look and see what they may have changed or added as far as pet abilities. I don't think they've changed the buffs or abilities much at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm hopeful that they're going to take care of that. That cranes, we're going to need some kind of new family for cranes, and porcupines, they need a new family where like you take 20 damage every time you hit them in melee, and then they're going to make awesome. Combined with Beast Cleave, they're going to make, and Thunder Stomp, they're going to make awesome like AOE grinding tanks.
But again, they had some new tigers and some turtles and things like that. So, but no new. Stable slots though, so we're still seem to be locked into 5. So
I think one of us called it. We said, it seems like so much to us now because at the time we were all limited to 5, but we're going to be complaining in a couple of years that it's not enough, and here we are a couple of years later, and now we're complaining. You at least are complaining about it not being enough.
It's true. We now complain about it not being enough.
It is. I mean, it was a big increase. We had like 5 times the space that we did.
Yeah,
coming into Cataclysm, and yet they give us all sorts of new cool pets, and we just filled them up immediately. Especially the people that collect spirit beasts and those rare pets. I mean,
And to be fair, they also put in a mechanical reason for us to need more pets than we ever did before.
They did.
Right? We used to want like, oh, we're going to choose our pet for a special ability. We're probably going to have a couple cunning, 1 tenacity, maybe 2, and 1 ferocity. Maybe 2, but probably just 1. But now with the buffs, it's like, oh, we want to make sure that we have the ability to bring any buff that we can bring. So that's actually, I guess that's less now than it was in.
Yeah, isn't it 8?
Well,
I believe so. That's that number sounds right.
It's like there's
8 buffs, 8 debuffs.
Yeah, there's 8 buffs, 8 debuffs. I don't know off the top of my head how many pets you need to cover everything that you need a pet to cover.
Well, you wouldn't. I mean, you don't. If you can cover one of those with a pet that you would typically use for PvP, I wouldn't suggest needing a new stable slot just because you'd have to respec it. Having to respec, in my opinion, doesn't count. So, worst case scenario, if we have a pet that provides every single buff and debuff, and I don't think we do, worst case scenario, we'll need 16. We have 25, right? I don't know. I only use like 5.
Yeah, it says your logic. Worst case scenario, it's 16, and it's not 16 because some of those buffs and debuffs we bring, not our pets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff, I think there's always been a couple that we don't like. Right now, oh hey, by the way, I got it. The crane should bring the mastery buff. That's that new raid buff.
Oh yeah,
we don't have yet. I can see that cranes and mastery.
Yeah, mostly because of the whole Middle Eastern, the whole Far Eastern motif.
Yeah, it's a good, Japanese thing going on, and it's Mr. Pandara. I think that works well.
Yeah, I could buy with that. I kind of like, even though it's not. I mean, most birds of prey that have the disarm ability are, it kind of makes sense. Like a seagull, you're like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. The seagull just goes and takes your weapon and flies away with it. But a crane, I don't really see it as the stealing type. So I would not at all be upset if they ended up with a mastery buff instead.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. And yeah, I definitely think the porcupines need the attack because that's nice. It's a way to create a pet that actually does do a little extra damage in a way that doesn't give it an edge over another ferocity pet. Because if you're raiding, nothing's attacking your pet. If it is, it dies. And then it'll be also good for pet tanking because you'll have a tiny little bit more threat generation.
Yep. So, do you guys want to take a bio or just go straight into the emails and Q&A?
I think we should go straight into the Q&A. We don't have a lot of time left. We've been...
Okay, well, I would like to add to the list of things that if you thought of and submitted, unfortunately, are no longer accurate. I have a Dora the Explorer coloring book. So if that was your thought, your idea of what would make my podcasting experience less manly, then you would be incorrect because I already have one.
We're not trying to make your podcasting experience less manly, which, frankly, is not that possible. We're just trying to make your pretty princess party perfect.
I heard you say the same thing twice. Dark Brew, did you hear something different?
Quite possible.
Okay, well,
all right.
Well, Shiami says, as an answer to today's question, no princess party would be complete without My Little Pony. It's both great for little girls and full-grown men.
No, it's not. No, it isn't.
Little girls like My Little Pony.
That's not what I'm yelling about. I do not get this. I saw Pike on Twitter the other day talking about this. Apparently, there are guys that are derisive towards girls who are into My Little Pony, unless they're little girls. I would like to take this moment to mention that if you like My Little Pony and you're not a little girl, at this point you're being ironic or you're just following everyone else. And at no point is it ever okay to be dismissive of somebody else being ironic or following everybody else for the same thing. And I still do not get it at all, not even a little bit.
Well, I'm going to step in here and disagree. I'm going to provide the counterpoint because I think it is important for us to be accepting of all peoples and all inclinations except for non-hunters and Canadians. So, Shimi asks, how likely are we to get more pet slots? And how many slots do you think we would get if we did get more slots?
Not very likely at all, and 0. If we did get more slots, we would I mean, I suppose if somebody were able to convince them that we really wanted it badly enough, like we managed to get them to take out minimum range, it would probably happen at the end of Mists of Pandaria, and I don't imagine that they would do much more than give us, I don't know, transmog for pets or something that would allow you to really only have, the 4 or 5 pets you're going to want for their special abilities, respect to whatever spec you need, and you can transmog them to look however you like.
Well, let me provide the counterpoint. Once again. And suggest 50-50 chance and 1.
Really?
And
Why
1. I think there's a chance they'll give us an extra active pet at 90.
Oh, an extra active pet.
An extra active pet at 90.
Interesting.
That's interesting. But in terms of overall
that would also have ramifications for Stampede.
Yes. I don't know about an active one. That's interesting. But I think not at launch, certainly, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of the major content patches, we did get an increase in number of slots to our stable in general, maybe by 5 or so. Because especially if they want to introduce more spirit beasts and things like that, I would think they would have to consider giving us more slots. I don't know. I just don't know what the technical implications are for that as far as storage and things like that.
That argument, that's the thing. That argument is exactly what people were saying about bag and bank space back when people were collecting RP sets or whatever, and every dungeon gear they had ever been in, and every tier that they had ever earned, they would keep a copy of it somewhere. And their answer to that was not to provide more space to allow us to continue collecting stuff. It was
instead to provide void storage that gives you more space.
Transmogrification, which accomplished the goal without requiring them to code in more storage. Because if they were to code in more storage,
well, you did though. I mean, you had to have the case in order to transmog.
Right, you have to have it, and you need a place to store all that junk, so they gave you void storage, which is really similar to the stable.
Void storage destroys the item, and...
Well, it removes all the enchants and gems and those types of things.
Yeah, what it means, like when you create an item, I think it's got a unique database ID in their database. It destroys that item and it regenerates it when you take it out. That's why the enchants are gone. That's why the gems are gone. Anything that made it unique is I think, as far as I know, taken out. So at this point, void storage is sort of their way of not having to give us more storage, but accomplishing the same effect as giving us more storage, and that we could walk around looking however we want.
I mean, I think Euripides makes an interesting point, which is the idea of you have like a pet void storage where you just collect pet appearances,
skins.
Like we once used to collect pet abilities. And then you have your cube, right? You have your black cube that then you put a model. You put a model on it. You put a skin on it, and then you choose whether it's
quite that much. I suspect that they'll word it slightly. That works for gear, not pets. People form sort of an attachment to their pets. I suspect that they'd find another way of wording this so it didn't seem as cold, but it would amount to that.
I mean, honestly, it's really only an issue for those rare pets that are hard to get.
Except they also have the taming challenges now, which
yes.
So it's all the spirit beasts plus all the taming challenges plus whatever your first pet was plus whichever you think is really pretty become like, oh, and I have to have Cro-Magus, which I haven't actually checked to see if they fixed that in the beta, which is ridiculous.
Oh, speaking of which, when I copy my character over again, I'm going to have that enormous spider from Outland. I forget where, the one southeast of Shatrath. Yeah, I went and got it just for this. Occasionally, when you go into like a battleground or open up a new instance, Hunter's Pet starts off at its original size and then shrinks down to the size that it actually is. It's just a lag bug. It's not a real issue. But that is officially the biggest pet in the game. That thing is enormous.
But on beta, it's a real issue. I haven't seen it.
It doesn't shrink.
Right, they don't shrink.
Right.
And so when you have Cro-Magus, a boss size, and you hit Big Red Pet, it's ridiculous. It's you're like this.
Is it even bigger than the spider?
It's a boss. You're literally the size of like his toenail. You cannot see your character. And then actually it was really obnoxious because at one point there was a group of hunters. It was like 2 or 3 hunters hanging out in Stormwind, and one of them had a devil sword, and one of them had a core hound. And core hounds are generally big. Just Cro-Magus is ridiculous because he's a boss. One of them had a devil sword. There was a couple people with core hounds, and they were all sitting on top of the dude you need to click on to get to Mists of
Pandaria.
That's a douche move.
Yeah, it
Most
was.
people have their hunting license revoked.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next Q&A.
Yes.
Foxtrap05 asks, is SV going to be hurting because its attack power is based not weapon damage based?
The short answer is no. SV could be hurting, but that won't be the reason any more than it is now, right? Because at first it's like, oh my god, weapon DPS just went up like crazy, and SV is not going to benefit from that. But keep in mind, all of the base weapon damage coefficients went way down, and SV wasn't hurt by that. And the idea was those two are supposed to balance, so SV is relatively in the same position. I'm not promising that SV is going to be balanced or tough or weak. That's a game balance issue, but you don't have to have everybody scale get to their DPS from the exact same source to have them scale the same.
Nope.
And let's see. Ekator says, Ghostcrawler said hunters can use any pet they want. But on the other hand, he said they like pets they like that pets can bring certain buffs. So WTF is with that. I hear what you're saying. The idea being like, the idea is to bring any pet you want, then all pets should be identical. Except each pet does have something that makes it unique, which frankly I think is a good thing. And sometimes there's a right buff to bring, which means there's a right pet to bring.
I don't see this as a problem at all. I mean, it just means that occasionally you'll have to take a pet that's not your preferred,
Correct.
The one that you the one that looks the way you like. But more often than not, if you're in a 10 or a 25-man raid, I'd say there's a large quantity of raids out there that will have the buffs and debuffs covered without you having to bring anything other than your favorite pet.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the reduction of the buffs. Now there's even fewer buffs than there were in Cataclysm. So there's 8 buffs, 8 debuffs. It's going to be much more likely that a 10-man raid team a well-made 10-man raid team will be able to cover all of those. And so much less likely that you'll need to cover a buff slot, even though you'll be able to, particularly for somewhat ill-formed raid teams. But Ekator is absolutely right that there is a little bit of a conflict between those two statements.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how that plays out. And of course, we do have the benefit of at least being able to make that pet a ferocity pet, depending on the buff that you need to bring. But I mean, I guess the solution to that, of course, would be to make it all open and make this whole create a pet concept where you now choose ferocity, tenacity, and whatever, and then also choose from the list of buffs that you could bring. But that just might be too ridiculously. I don't know. It just might. I think that just sort of takes something away as well. It's nice to sort of have that little bit of thinking and thought go into, what pet do you might have to bring or want to bring or need to bring, and do you even have that pet? I don't know. Just I think allowing you to specify which buff the pet brings makes it just a little too easy.
All right. Do we want to try to get through at least one email before we close out the show?
Yeah,
we're really kind of at time.
We are kind of at time, but let's take at least the one, because if we don't do one a week, then we'll never do any. I'll do this one because you guys were the only ones that could read the Q&A. Gilrugan writes in with a Children's Week achievement. He says, like many lucky players and unlike many griefing ones, I got the For the Children event this week. Big shout out has to go to Hanzo the Horty Rogue, who recapped the tower in Alterac Valley for me not once but twice, the second time after I capped it without my orphan. He has every right to kill me at that point, and I deserve it. I spent the next half hour being auto-shotted by bots while trying to do the same service for Horties, but I did get a couple in their achievement. Thanks for the great show. I gotta say, I'm actually...
he also said, but goddamn, do the serious PvPers hate this week? And then he said,
yes, he did.
Yes,
them.
they do.
And, followed by profanity. I am a fairly serious PvPer. No, that's not true. I'm a serious BGer in the sense that regardless of what achievements are out there, I'm not playing for achievements, I'm playing to win. And this is partly because of the fact that I don't do achievements. Achievements are unspendable currency. They are 100% bragging rights and absolutely no function. So form above function is not something that fits in my brain at all. And it confuses me that other people like them, but I'm not going to argue. Anyways, I feel bad that Blizzard had made these meta achievements that even though they're technically helping your team encourage, people to play, game the system and not try and win, just try and get their achievements and then, leave the battle. I kind of wish that wasn't the case, because it means for the last week, except, both sides are basically filled with people that aren't there to do anything other than, something else altogether, not at all what the rest of us are there for,
Yeah, the Children's Week PvP achievements are by far the most miserable one of the most miserable achievements in the game. And I mean, I was so relieved. I mean, I think the day that I got mine was pretty much spent all of like a Saturday or Sunday in Eye of the Storm, trying to do whatever.
So that's interesting. I gotta say,
and it was horrible.
I gotta say, when I was doing these, and I did every holiday achievement that was necessary for the Violet Proto-Drake way back in Wrath, because at the time I was like, a 310% speed flying mount is a meaningful reward. God damn it.
Yes, I thought that first, and I'm like, wait a second. If I spent all the time that you're going to spend on this making money in the auction house instead, I'll be able to buy Mimron's head from a raiding guild, and so I did.
Nimrod's head is a cool mount.
I'm kidding. I didn't actually buy Mimron's head, but I ended up with 310% speed, and without having to do that.
Yeah, it was sad. Right after I got it was when the announcement that would happen. I was like, oh my god, I just spent a year on this. But Children's Week was not a problem for me, I gotta say. It was... I
Some
hated
of them are really intense.
I just... there was a couple other people in my guild that were interested in it, and so I got Hrist to come into Battlegrounds with me, which was really funny, because Hrist is like, I hate PvP, I don't PvP, but yeah, I'll help you guys out. And we go in there, he's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, what are the rules? We're like, dude, you just need to distract these guys. He's like, oh, what do you mean distract them? I can't them. They're players. And like, no, just attack them. They're stupid. They'll attack you back and ignore the healer. He's like, yeah, you're right. Wow, these guys are dumb.
Well, that's probably because they were working on their achievements too.
Right, and
when I see a tank like Hrist, I just ignore him until his healer's dead, and then I kite him.
And the tank
actually,
who was a prot warrior back in Wrath, and just people could not kill him. He was like, that's awesome. These people are stupid. And he had his tanking reflexes with all of his like interrupting and stuff turned out to be really effective. And he's like, yeah, I'll just go around and I'll just like, he would like go around and like hit a bunch of people, and they would all like go and attack him, and then he'd go help us out by interrupting the healers.
Your 2.5-year-old advice is no longer valid, because tanks are only good for carrying flags at this point, or maybe guarding bases, but they do almost no damage now that Vengeance doesn't stack from players.
Except this was before Vengeance existed, and he was a PvE prot warrior. He did no damage. But it didn't matter. All he had to do was attack someone, and psychologically, people who aren't good PvPers, and come on, it was Children's Week, all he had to do was attack someone, and people would be like, oh my god, this guy's attacking me, I'm going to fight him! Arrgh!
I took one of our guild members, Sturge, through at least 2 or 3 of them the other day in just a couple of battles. All it takes is if you have a friend who's a good PvPer and is willing to help you out, even if he doesn't necessarily understand why you're trying to do this, it's really not that hard. You just have to be faster than everybody else doing it, and none of them are optimizing. So, get slow fall on your mount, and jump straight to the middle. And you'll probably be faster there than anybody on your team or their team. And that's an Eye of the Storm, by the way. And there's all kinds of little things that you can do to actually achieve these. And most importantly, once you have them, make sure you stop playing. Because, or at least if you're going to play seriously. Don't go in and play where you try and find somebody else trying to get their achievements and then cap and let them recap and then stuff like that. That's just not helping us, because you're taking up a valuable spot.
Yeah, no, what we did, and it worked out really well, is, we went in, there was like 3 of us, and we all did our thing. It was a healer and me and Hrist, and I basically killed everything. The healer kept me alive mostly. Hrist wasn't really in trouble. And Hrist just would hit people with his little, Nerf sword that did nothing as a prot warrior. But we'd get whatever we needed, and then be like, okay, let's try to win. And we almost always won, because we just the 3 of us mowed over everything in the little ones, not in AB, obviously.
Well, technically, this has been a post show, because we're well over our time. Do you want to do our outro, maybe?
I think maybe we should.
All right. You have been listening to episode 128 of the Hunting Party Podcast. This is Euripides from Mount DPS, WoW Insider, and Call to Auction.
And I'm Dark Brew from thebrewhall.com and the Brewhall on Twitter.
And this is Frosttime from Warcraft Hunters Union, WoW Insider, and Auction to Call Girls podcast, which is going to be a special segment on Call to Auction.
Yeah.
And I'm Molly Sonder from the Hunting Party Podcast and the Trader Lore Podcast.
Oh, Trader Lore. Nice. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, and soon YouTube. Right?
Yes, we will soon be on YouTube. We're currently in negotiations with the YouTube executives, and we're pretty confident that they're going to let us have a YouTube account.
What this amounts to is that Frost sent an email and has not yet received a reply, but Darkru and I are just about finished. We just got to get some videos created. We have all these MP3s and stuff, so. You will be able to.
We mean a still image.
A still image of our MP3
that will play while the MP3 plays.
But importantly, YouTube is portable to anything. I think those old Sanyos from 1997, the phones they are YouTube enabled now. So. Anyways, feel free to leave a review on iTunes if you like us. Links are all in the show notes.
And if you like us, please don't be shy about leaving us a review on iTunes, especially one where you mention how uncommonly good-looking Frostime is.
Stay thirsty, my friends, and remember to drink your dark blue lager.
I totally stole your line. Not even on purpose, but now I don't regret it a little bit.
Remember to stay your feral druids.
Oh, what the hell? I guess that's for that.
And don't forget to pay your dues.
I can jump shot, BM, MM, and SB. I can rock out any tree. Never worried about my threat, 'cause I've got FD and misdirect. Catching loose mobs in my traps. I never miss, 'cause I am hit capped. 'Cause I'm the hunter, not the marked. I'm the fighter, not the spark. I'm the kiter, not the kite. I'll top meters every fight. Raiding and game, dealing death. Just me, my gun, and my trusty bed. Now let's begin with Illidan, Osirian, and Gil'jadan, Magdamar, Asgalor, Gruul, Cthulhu, and Razorgore, Onyxia to Ragnaros. Which one have we killed the most? Kel'Thuzad to Malagos. We even killed a Kama's ghost. Feels like we're getting close, all that running as a ghost. Yogg-Saron, Thorian, Sartharian, Magtheridon, Sapuron, Luciton to Sulfuron,